Hi, my name's Tammy, and I think Mike's a great guy.
Good morning, everybody. It's Mike in the Light Runner. It is Tuesday, December the 15th, and I've got a big day today. I've just arrived at my first meeting location. It is minus 11, and I've already driven 42.3 kilometers. I've got several other meetings today, and then tonight we've got to get our kids over to curling and back home. And then I have to get up to Edmonton for some work up there tomorrow. So going to be putting a lot of kilometers on the car today, probably close to 400-ish, maybe even. One of my favorite things in the winter is everything gets coated with this nice frosty layer. And it looks really, really cool. Of course, the car is not coated at all because we park inside a garage. It's not heated, but keeps it from getting covered with the nice, beautiful, frosty stuff. All right, first meeting done, and I'm at the second meeting. I'm just parked in a garage, and just want to show you because I realized I made a boo-boo. So anyways, I've done 74.4 kilometers so far, and I'm going to be plugging into charge here. And when I left home this morning, I didn't quite zero out my my trip B, so I'm going to do that now. Reset B there, so now B is zeroed and I lose that 74.4, but it's on the video, so I'm going to make a note of it when I add up all my numbers for later today and get an idea of what we're going to be at. So while I'm here, I'm going to plug in, and I think I'm going to bring the battery up to 90%, depending on if I'm at the meeting long enough. It'll be yeah, I think it'll get there for sure at this charger. So yeah, and the day continues. All right, the day continues. I've got a full day done. We just got back from curling and had supper, and this morning I had done a bunch of meetings and drove around and did 74 kilometers, and then throughout the day we did about another 71 kilometers here. So I'm just going to reset that because I always like to reset it before I do a longer trip, just so I can track the average energy usage on the longer trips. So resetting that, and now we're going to be heading out. It's minus 3, so throughout the day here it was kind of varying between, it started out at minus 13 this morning, hovered around minus 9 for a while, and during the day it actually got up to 1 degree Celsius here, which was kind of nice. So let's punch in some coordinates here. We're going to go to one of my favorite chargers, the Red Deer Supercharger. It goes ahead and figures out that it is 167 kilometers or an hour and 45. It says I'm going to get there with 35% of battery remaining. I know it's going to be a little lower than that because I've got the Thule box on the car. I've just decided to leave it there. You know, the car does fine with it. I do take a bit of a hit on performance, but it really doesn't matter. It's not. It's negligible, so I've decided to leave it there until we're done with it in the spring, because we do get a lot of use out of it. And so, yeah, here we go. We're going to be taking off right about now. And this is what it looks like every once in a while when the snow starts to fall on an average trip to Edmonton. This highway can get really, really bad, so you really want to watch what you're doing. And right now we are not under auto steer because as you can see from the camera, yeah, it's picking up. You can't see the lines on the road. And interestingly enough, even though the car sees the road and the vehicle in front of us, the software is capable of auto steering on this road. It just has not been enabled yet. So Tesla is continuing to do testing and refining of the software of the deep neural network that's analyzing everything on the road and around me, and I'm looking forward to the day when it will actually be able to steer through this stuff. So yeah, this trip today puts us over 500 kilometers on the Light Runner. And when I look at how we use the car, you wake up in the morning, the car's full, because before you went to bed the night before, every night when we park the car, we plug it in. And you go inside, and when you come out in the morning, the battery is full. Now usually I'll charge the battery up to 80%, and if I've got a longer trip, 90%. If I've got a longer trip, then I'll actually charge it up even more to help cover making sure I have enough range for the longer distance that I have to travel. So that's what I did today. I actually charged up to 90%, and then I get up in the morning and start getting ready. And as soon as I get up, I'll tell the car to continue to charge to 100, and I'll turn on the heat, because in the winter it's really a nice treat to come and sit into a warm car. And so by the time my half hour of getting ready in the morning is done, I'm walking out to a car that's got a few more kilometers of range in the battery, and it's toasty warm. And the benefit of doing that is the battery management system is always regulating battery temperature. If you do that while you're plugged in, while you're at home or at your destination, it will actually bring the car and the battery up to optimal temperature. And so you could do that once or twice, the warm-up cycle, and the car is toasty warm and you're ready to go. That means that when you are underway, you're using less of your energy stored in the battery for managing battery temperature, because it's already being brought to a nice thermal range that's comfortable for the battery. So yeah, that was this morning. We left from the house, went out. I did a bunch of meetings throughout the day. I came home, and this is the thing that everybody forgets when they ask about EVs, is they say, how far can it go? And it certainly does have a limit, from full to empty. But what everybody overlooks is that you will always stop somewhere and you can charge. And so in the middle of my day, I charge and I add range to the battery. So it's kind of like a gas car, right? The question of how far can you go? Well, I can go as far as I need to. I'll go until I'm low on gas, and then I'll find a station and I'll fill up. Electric car is exactly the same thing. I'll go as far as I need to, and when I see that I need more, I'll plan that into my day. So that's it. Now the interesting thing I found, because I did a longer range trip last week, and now I'm doing one this week again, but it's really interesting. The days in between those trips, what ends up happening is it's the same routine, but there's kind of two kinds of planning that you go through when you own an EV. The one kind of planning is when you have a longer trip. So you check your map, you check where the charging stations are along the route, and you plan accordingly. That's one kind of planning that's necessary. The other kind is the kind where you're not going anywhere far and you really don't have to do anything other than get in the car and drive. So when I look at the last week where I had work in the city that I live in, I would hop in the car, I would go from A to B and B to C and C to D all day long, and come home and plug the car in when I'm at home and unplug it when I have to go. You really don't even think about it. It's kind of like my iPhone. When I'm sitting at my desk and working at my desk, I plug it in because I'm there at the desk. I'm not, I'm got the charger there, so I plug it in, I let it charge up, and then when I have to run to my next appointment, I unplug the phone, take it with me. That's what an electric car is like. When you're not using it, you plug it in wherever you are, and you're adding range to the battery. And then when you got to go, you just unplug it and go. Now, I'm a little bit nerdy, so I do an extra step. I track every single time I plug it in. I track how much energy I put into the car, and then I track how much energy I take out of the car and what I get for that energy. So I've got spreadsheets that date back all the way to when we got the car back in March 31st of 2015 that show every single charge cycle I've done and what I've gotten out of it. And you can tell the charge cycles where I've driven harder, and used up the energy a lot quicker. And then there's others where I've driven really conservatively and gotten great range out of the car. one of the first trips we did when we got it was a 400 kilometer trip, full battery to empty battery. So we managed to squeeze out 400 kilometers, and that was highway driving. That was from Calgary to Lethbridge, a bunch of meetings in Lethbridge, and then back home to Calgary. So a 400 kilometer trip on a single charge, not too bad. And we actually had to go out that night. We had plans with friends, and so when we got home, we plugged the car in, and we got ready, got everything packed up, got the kids settled with their dinners, and we left for our night out, and we had enough range in the car for the night out. So really, the second kind of planning is it's no planning necessary at all. You just use the car when you need it and plug it in when you don't. The nice thing about the way I've got it set up is when I'm at home, I'll always charge to a maximum of 90% battery, and when I need to go on longer trips, I charge it to 100. Now, the other interesting thing that people always want to know, especially with an electric car, because they just have trouble connecting electric car and cold weather, and so they'll always ask, do you have to turn down the heat in the middle of the winter? And my answer to that is no, you don't, because it's one of my favorite things about this car is we actually run it, we're warmer than we used to be. We turn up the heat. In the winter, I don't think we've gone below 23. It seems Tammy and the kids really like it when I have it around 25 to 26 in the car. It's a nice toasty heat. I like to have it that warm too, because when we load kids into the jump seats in the very back, what happens is that big back door opens and all of the warm air escapes out of the car. So when you have it running at 25 or 26, it warms up nice and quick, and everybody's toasty warm. So the question of, do you have to dial back on the heat to make sure you can get to where you're going in an EV? In a Tesla, you don't. And, I got to be honest, in the Leaf, which is the other electric car that we drive, you do have to watch that, right? If you have a longer trip that you need to make that day, you may want to cut back on the heat to extend your range. And that's partially because the Leaf is what I would call a first generation electric vehicle. The ceramic heater that it uses is it's a 6.6, I think it's a 6.6 kilowatt heater, so it sucks a lot of juice out of the battery to keep the cabin warm and the car warm. And so in the Leaf, what you do is you kind of cheat. You turn on the seat heaters and the steering wheel heater, which warms you up, and it does warm up the cabin, but it doesn't use as much energy as using the heater. So you can use the heater at about 20 Celsius, and then you use the seat and the steering wheel to warm you up the rest of the way. The Tesla has the same functionality. It's a really nice, toasty, warm steering wheel. So you can heat up your steering wheel, you can heat up your seats, and that works really well. But we never cut back on the heat in the cabin. The other thing I remember that somebody had asked me was, are the side mirrors heated? The answer is yes. The side mirrors are heated. They have a defrost feature, and that comes on when you turn on the rear window defrost. So rear window defrost activates the defrost in the mirrors. And I've never had an issue with the windows icing up or not being able to clear the windows. That's another question people ask is, well, how do you get warm? How do you warm up the windshield enough and all that? It's never been an issue. In fact, you can make this car as hot as, if not hotter, than a conventional gas vehicle, and you can be more than comfortable. So yeah, not an issue. Now, one other tip for you guys, a cold weather driving tip with an electric vehicle, and I think this would apply to any electric vehicle. If you're going to drive in cold weather and you want to extend your range, I would highly recommend just timing the finishing of your charge. So what I mean by that is if you need to leave at 6 in the morning or 7 in the morning, time it so that the car is either still charging at the time that you're leaving in the morning, or that it's just finished 5 minutes to a half an hour prior to you leaving. And the reason for that is the act or the process of charging the battery actually heats it up. the battery pack itself will become warmer through the process of charging. So making sure that the battery is still charging or just finished charging as you're about to leave means that the thermal temperature of the battery pack is closer to its optimal operating range, which is about room temperature, or 20 degrees Celsius. So with the Tesla, it manages its own thermal temperature, so it will warm itself up. The advantage I get there is that it doesn't have to, so it saves energy. In other cars that don't have the battery pack thermal management, like our Leaf, the act of having it finish or having it charging as we leave means that the battery pack is slightly warmed up, so I get that advantage. And the other thing that you can do too, that is a huge tip, is to, like I mentioned earlier, warm up the car before you go, because that way you're taking off with a warm vehicle and you don't have to use up your own energy charging up the cabin and the battery. If you have a battery pack management, none of that energy gets wasted because it was done off of the wall outlet at home, and so all of the battery power that you have in your pack is used to help you drive. So yeah, so this is we're kind of in the middle of our trip, my trip to Edmonton. There's going to be the usual supercharger stop, so I call this a one supercharger trip because I have one pit stop that's in the town of Red Deer, and that's where I think I'm going to pop into the restaurant and have a nice, maybe a nice healthy salad, a chicken salad or a shrimp salad or something. Sounds like a nice late night meal, and then I'll continue on my trip to Edmonton. So it's still snowing out here. The lines are obscured enough, and yep. So I can't turn on auto steer because the cameras can't pick up the edges. Oh, there we go. No, can't pick them up. So I've got to steer my own car, which seems so retro now after you've been using auto steer for so long. But you sure get to appreciate auto steer, and like I said, you get used to it really fast. So yeah, we'll continue the drive. We'll see what it looks like in Red Deer. Right now it's -4 degrees Celsius. Not super warm, but not too cold either. So this winter is not too bad. This is kind of a neat view of the map. If you, this is kind of the map config that I usually run with, and when I'm on the highway, I zoom out a little bit. And if you want to see the whole remainder of your trip, you just hit trip, and it'll actually show you, and you can full screen it, where you're at and where your destination is, and it just kind of all fits nicely on the map. So we can see now that we've got 59 kilometers left, about 37 minutes left on my current trip. And I've been going a little bit faster than 110, and so it looks like I'm going to arrive with about 17. But again, that's okay because the supercharger charges very quickly, and I need to grab a bite to eat while I'm in Red Deer. So I've got the time, and the car will charge up nice and quick. One of the other things, I don't know if I showed you guys in other videos, but I've told you the name of our Tesla is the Light Runner, and you can actually see that right there. You can change the name just by clicking on it, and you can edit the name, and that's where you set that. The other thing, if you haven't seen it before, is in that same screen. So you hit the T for Tesla and you go into your release notes. You can actually see all of the new functionality that's in release version 7, and then you can read about all of the stuff that's being added. The entire manual for the car is under controls, and if you go into, I think it's settings, there it is, manual, and then it pops up the owner's manual. So if you want to learn about charging, battery information, you know, whatever, it's all provided in there, the whole manual. is online in the car for you, which is kind of nice. So yeah, back to my consumption screen. Another half an hour and we will be at our destination. So there we go. Alright, I'm back in the car and did some math on the distance that I'm doing, and I'm going to be putting on over 500 kilometers today. So, like I said, not an average day, but usually we're around 200 kilometers. So, yeah, 500 is not out of line. Just got this longer trip up to Edmonton. So I've got it all punched in. We've got 141 kilometers from Red Deer up to the hotel where I'll be staying, and there's a nice Tesla charger at that hotel, so maybe this time I'll catch a bit of video of that if it's not too late. Looks like I should be getting there around midnight, and I'll probably have, I don't know, what does the computer say? Computer says I'll have 48%. I think I'll be down around 30-ish, but again, we'll see how cold it gets. Right now out here it is, can see right there, -9, and probably get a little cooler as we head north towards Edmonton. All right, let's get going.